And it's my pleasure to introduce JT Thomas, who is presenting to the MA community for maybe fourth, fifth, sixth, can't even remember the number of times, but we're so grateful to have you back with us again, JT. And this meeting is being recorded, and we will be able to send out to everyone the recording and a slide deck. So if you would save your questions for the end, we'll take those, and that will also be on the recording. So JT, I'll turn it over to you.
Excellent. Thanks for having me again, Marin Academy. I absolutely love your school. I have I've coached on your soccer field many times, and I have no idea how you have over 450 students and 35 teams. Your athletic director must be crazy, okay? In a good way, in a good way as far as I'm concerned. Anyways, for those of you that don't know me, I'm JT, Jennifer Thomas. I was a college counselor at Mabec High School for 11 years. So I became friends and colleagues with all your college counselors, and you guys do quite well in that realm, always, every year, in and out, getting students off to great colleges. I'm now specializing in just working with athletes, which is kind of my love. I've been a Division I college player. You can see from this slide up in the upper right, that's me back in the day, way a long time ago, barely remember it. I've been a high school athletic teacher, athletic director, teacher, and coach. So I've worked on the high school side, not in counseling. I've also worked on the high school side in counseling. And then I went off to coach at my alma mater at Cal for 11 seasons. I've coached ODP, PDP. I've coached boys. So I had a son, and I left the college game to start coaching his team all through youth soccer and off into different levels of colleges all over the country. I spent a lot of time watching those boys play now. They're all starting to graduate as seniors and move on, a couple to the MLS, which has been pretty fun. And all I can tell you right now is that I did this process with my son and my whole team. And the hardest part of this process, being on all sides of it, I've been on all sides of it as an athlete and educator and all of that and coach, was being a parent in the process. It was exhausting. I had no idea what I was doing, and I know so much, and it was just constantly frustrating and second guessing. So I'm just going to say, parents, for those of you that are in this process already, I hope I can give you some insights. For those of you that are entering it, here we go. Hang on for the ride. Okay. So what I'm going to do first is I am going to kill your college athletic dreams, or your child's, whoever's listening, parent or athlete, because I'm going to let you know exactly how hard it is to go through this process, because I had to do it with my son. It's hard. The first slide, you have to be good at whatever sport you're doing. And my God, you guys have 35 different teams. You even have sailing, okay? So what I did is I took some of the statistics off the NC2A website, and obviously they're from 2022 because they're not updated yet, the NC2A Classic. And you can see, like in my sport, in women's soccer, only 7.2% of high school players are going to go on to play in the NC2A, either in Division I, II, or III. Okay, 2.4 are going to play in Division I. That is not a big number. You have to be good. This is a very competitive process, okay? I mean, if you look down at volleyball, 3.9% are going off, and all those girls, except for there might be one short one on the team, right? The Librero are going, the D1 girls are 6'2", and I don't even know how that happened in my lifetime, because that wasn't like that when I was in college. So it's a competitive process. You not only have to be good at your craft, at your sport, but you have to be seen being good, okay? Some of you play sports with times and rankings and handicaps and things like that. A little different. If you have a good time, people will come see you, right? Those of you that are trudging through in my sport or lacrosse or even volleyball, you have to be seen being good. So you have to have your moment in front of a college coach so they can see you play live, okay? So it's not an easy process. And if you're still with me, I only have 2 more slides to kill your dreams, and then I'll build you back up, I promise. The second kill the dream slide is there's just not as much athletic scholarships as everybody is saying in the Whole Foods parking lot, right? Oh, my son or daughter got a full ride, blah, 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 blah. That's just, full rides are rare. Some sports like football, they have 85 full rides. And the 86th football player on the team at those in those Division I sports, they get $0. Okay. So the scholarship piece is not as simple as it seems. In my sport and in men's soccer, we have 14 full rides to divide amongst 36 players. On the men's side, they have 9.9 full rides to divide amongst 36 players. So scholarship money is getting pieced out to everybody. You could get tuition, room, books, board, all of that stuff, or you could just get a supported application. So it works in a variety of ways. And I want you to think about finances and college fit equally, right? You have to be looking at everything, not just the athletic piece, because this is a 4-year commitment and decision. Okay. So as you can see, the odds of landing a major college scholarship in many major sports are lower than the chance of being admitted to Harvard, Yale, Princeton, or Stanford. And we college counselors know that's all about 5% or under, right? So it is tough. There is more academic money out there than financial aid than there is athletic aid. So obviously I'm preaching to the choir because you have a very strong school, but study hard. There's money to be made if you can get merit money for academics. And last but not least, and the most complex, is in recent years, this whole process has gotten harder. And I'm sorry to tell you guys that because you're just jumping into it right now, or you've been in it for a couple of years. It's just harder because of things that have happened. The first thing that happened was COVID in 2020. And fortunately, number one here, the COVID issue, which gave every athlete an extra season of eligibility if they played in 2020, if the coach wanted them and if they got scholarship money enough to stay. The impact of that was that there were fewer recruits coming in for a freshman year because the coaches had to recruit less players because their seniors weren't leaving. Now, fortunately for most of you on this, that impact should fade in 2022 and end by, 2024 and end by 2025. Okay. So that's not going to be as huge an impact as it has been for the past few years for incoming freshmen. And the next two things are just getting bigger, actually. So you lose one, you gain two. Number two, the NC2A transfer portal. And I'm sure many of you have heard about this because in football and basketball, it's just an explosion right now in the NC2A. It was created in 2018. And the philosophy behind creating this transfer portal that allowed athletes to transfer from school to school without punishment, they were trying to make it more equal, more equitable for athletes, just like normal students can transfer for whatever reason you don't like the college that you picked. We all want to hope you like the college that you picked initially, but some people do transfer. So now athletes are putting themselves into this transfer portal and coaches are pulling them out of the transfer portal because they'd rather have a junior who's had 2 seasons already under their belt in college than bring in a freshman. They're calling it, do you want to build your roster with freshmen and sophomores, or do you want to fill your roster with juniors, seniors, and fifth years? So this has created a ton more competition. The trend is going up. Not everyone gets out of the transfer portal. Some people call it purgatory because they stay in there and they can't go back to their old team and they can't move forward. But it is creating fewer roster spots for freshmen. Okay. Hang on with me because I'll get to the good stuff soon, I promise. The third thing is international athletes, and this is very sport dependent. So you tennis players out there, just know 64% of tennis players in Division I are coming from other countries. Okay. I'm all about diversity and internationalism. I think it's a great add to campus, but that's a significant piece of competition for you if you're a freshman trying to get a roster spot in men's and women's tennis. Obviously, ice hockey is big, and a lot of the ice hockey women are coming from Canada, but it's still, squeezing out roster spots for freshmen. And so it's sport dependent. There's about 12% international athletes in Division I right now, and the trend is going up. Okay. So the result of these crazy trends that have occurred all recently, like last 5 years, last 10 years slowly, is that there's fewer roster spots for incoming freshmen, more competition for those roster spots. So what I'm asking athletes to do is enlarge their lists. And I know your counselors are going to hate me for this, and vary your lists. So if you have one dream school, no, have 10. dream schools, okay? You only want to go to one region of the country? Look at some other regions of the country. You think you're D1? Well, maybe look at D3, look at D2. Open up your lists and be open to many different conferences, divisions, associations, and geographical locations and rankings, okay? And on the rankings thing, sometimes the lowest ranked teams in their conference or in the NC2A are recruiting the hardest, okay? So what I want you to do is cast a wide net. I want you to think about all of your college priorities, right? Fit, finance, geography, academic fit, right? All of these things, right? Size of campus. Do you want to be urban, rural? Do you want to be out in the middle of nowhere? Do you want to be packed down in a big city? And consider the broken leg test. Not that I'm wishing this or willing this on anybody, but if you have a career-ending or season-ending injury in college, you better be pretty happy with the place you picked, because you're going to be there rehabbing for maybe a year or maybe longer, okay? So consider the broken leg test and consider all of these and just open up your list and open up your mind so you have choice in the end. You don't just get an offer from one school, you have a few offers so you can pick the school you want to go to, okay? So at this point, I'm hoping just to be able to change my slide. It's not changing that easily. Okay, so that's your dreams are killed. Now I'm going to build you back up like I promised. And I'm just going to say, I wouldn't be doing these presentations year in and year out if I didn't have the best 4 years of my life playing college soccer. And I know people say that's pathetic. They have told me to my face that's pathetic. And I say it's true. I haven't put 4 years together that have been anything like that experience I had. Okay. It wasn't just the soccer. It was the bonding. It was making friends for life. It was everything. Okay. So athletics can change the size of a school. One of your counselors was a swimmer at Middlebury. Okay. Tiny, tiny school, kind of a rural school, but she got to travel all over the NESCAC to go play other schools. So it made her small school bigger. Okay. It can make a big school smaller too, like playing soccer at Cal and you're there with 35,000 people. I've got my girls. I've got this group of people that I have a social life and I don't have to work too hard for it. Okay. Finally, the best thing about being an athlete, whether you're in high school and college or your parents are athletes, whatever it is, you already have these inherent characteristics that are going to make you successful. Okay, in this process, in life, in your career, in your relationships, you're disciplined, you're hardworking, you're a leader, you're all about team. Even if you play an individual sport, you're about team. Okay, you understand when and how to sacrifice for the sake of your team. You problem solve in group situations. Okay, and you have a passion for something that you've been doing for a long time and you love it and you just get in the zone when you do it. Okay, so you are marketable for life at this point, and you are made for this crazy, chaotic process because of those inherent characteristics. Okay, so what I'm hoping now, that was your pregame warm-up, okay? It's probably the worst pregame talk I'd ever give to anybody, just killing their dreams. I would never send you into a game like that, but consider that your pregame talk and it's over. This is going to fall into two parts. You're going to have a where can I play part, all the different places you can look, and how do I get there part. Okay, so we'll have a halftime where I get to have a drink, a little hydration break, and we'll move on. And remember, write down your questions, save your questions for the end, and we'll have a great question and answer period to go from. So where's my best athletic fit? I am not talking about academic fit or broken leg test or anything like that, just athletic fit. Where can I play? There's not only the NC2A with Division 1, 2, and 3, there's the NAIA, there's the junior college, and there's college club sports. So there's a lot of different places to play, and people don't think about that. And remember, I said, open up your list so you can avoid all these crazy trends that have occurred. This is a way to do it, is to understand where you could potentially play. I don't know why my laptop is not being very nice about moving the slides. Okay, so the first place to play is kind of the biggest, the most notable, the highest visibility, and it's called Division 1. I call it the bling. It's the bling. It's where everyone wants to play. It's like I'm still wearing Cal gear from my 11 seasons of coaching at Cal. Not playing in the 80s. I don't have many of those shirts left, but I'm still wearing gear because you get a lot of stuff. You get a lot of bling, and it's not just the gear. You have killer facilities. You saw the first slide, right? You have strength and conditioning coaches. You have doctors at your beck and call, to work on your body. You have PT, you have nutritionists, you have sports psychologists, which is really big right now. Each team has one assigned in Division I. You have all access to all of this stuff, even massages, and you have hot tubs at some places and juice bars in some athletic training rooms. Okay. So at the biggest, there's big budgets, there's big visibility, and big bling. That's what Division I is, okay? Now, with all that bigness comes a big commitment. So playing Division I sports now in this age, not in the 80s when I played, it was more like playing a club sport. It wasn't as demanding, but now the commitment is like a full-time job, and it's your first job, okay? School is kind of your second job. I mean, it could be equal for many of you, but you're trying to do them both, but you can't miss practice. So, you didn't finish some homework. You can't call your coach and say, I have to miss practice or I have a test to take. It doesn't work like that. All that's scheduled around, and you have to be ready to go to your game, to your practice, to your film, to your nutrition session, whatever it is. It trumps your academics. So it's a big commitment. You're going to sacrifice a normal college life. I loved the sacrifice. I didn't mind at all. I had a really fun team. So my socialness was with my team, but you might not be allowed to study abroad in Division I, because that means you have to leave campus for a semester, right? Or a summer, and you should be training to get playing time. You might not be able to be in the major you want to be in because it doesn't quite go with academic class time, right? Engineering, nursing, architecture, they're very structured majors in college. And if they have class on Friday and you're gone because you're traveling to play, you miss that class, and they might not be happy about that. So it becomes problematic. Double majors can be hard. Internships can be very challenging just because time away. And summer jobs are ridiculously hard unless you're going to work for your coach and run soccer camps, okay? Which is what I want you to do if you're playing for me, because then you're with me all summer, you're in the weight room, you're training, you're getting ready for the fall season, okay? But so there's big money, big budgets, big commitment. In terms of Division I, I said in the beginning slide, D1, I know you guys don't have football, but football is allowed 85 full rides, okay? So that's a lot of money. Now, except the Ivy League. The Ivy League does not offer athletic scholarships to any of their athletes, okay? So just know that if you save your money, if you're going to go play somewhere in the Ivy League. Of all this right now, one positive change I feel like that has occurred is that the NC2A in 2023 decided that test scores are no longer required for athletes. Now, that said, that's a great thing because it's one less thing we have to do on this crazy process. They're not required for athletes, but some colleges are requiring test scores, and quite a few just in the past few months have said they want test scores. So my recommendation to you is with testing is talk to your college counselor. They will know the best option for you. But just know that is a dynamic changing thing, except the NC2A says no. So for the athletic piece, you're set. Okay, so that's D1. And I always do this because I love looking at football rosters because I can't believe how big these guys are. In the Power 5 conferences, right, which is the NCC, the ACC, the SEC, the Big 12, the Big 10, and no longer the Pac-12 anymore. We're all going into the ACC here for Cal next year. There's big athletes, big guys. Like you look at the bottom, I want you to look at rosters, not the football rosters. Look at your sports rosters, whatever it is. It's volleyball, it's sailing, it's tennis, it's soccer, lacrosse, whatever sport you play, check out college rosters. You can learn everything from them. You can click on each one of these players and find out where they played, what level, what their scores are, all that stuff, depending on your sport. You look at Evan Neal down at the bottom. Offensive lineman, 6'7", 350 pounds. I work with some athletes who come in or I see them on Zoom and I'm like, so what's your height and weight? And they're like, I'm 5'8" and I'm 160. And I'm like, okay, Evan Neal's he's going to kill you if you're lined up against him. So look at rosters to determine, like, are these the type of athletes that I'm equal to? Like, would this be a good fit for me as an athlete? Check rosters. Not only size, experience, teams they played for, position, and when they're graduating, right? If we have any goalkeepers out there or catchers, position-specific sports that you're in, really go dive deep into their position and find out when they're leaving. When are they supposed to graduate? And they may have need for your position. Okay, so are we feeling good about D1 or kind of good about D1? Division 2, okay? It is what I call the middle child. 3 children, it's not the oldest, it's not the baby, it's right in the middle, okay? I call it the tweener. It's right in between the two. It's not as visible or demanding as Division 1 sports. It doesn't have as big a budget, but it still has scholarships, okay? It still has gear. It still has all that stuff. It's still a very big commitment, okay? Now, D2, the best example I can give you in just terms of money, how much money is spent on Division 1 programs versus Division 2 is the NC2A allows 85 full rides. I keep saying that for men's football, okay? For D2, it offers 36. So there is the cost difference. The other thing that happens at Division 2 colleges is some of them may not have football. They may just get rid of that because it's too expensive for them. And so they may have smaller athletic departments with less sports, right? So they may, where a Power 5 conference may have 20 sports, a D2 may only have 9 sports. And that's how they fund their athletes, so they can keep them at the best level that they can. In California, most of the D2s are Cal States, other than Dominican, which is out by you guys. Most of them are Cal States, like Humboldt, Chico, San Francisco State, Sonoma, schools like that, okay? So that's kind of the D2 land, but there's still athletic scholarships, okay? You still have to register for the NC2A. It's all that. So for those of you who are like already tired of me talking about team sports, let's put a little attention on you. If you are in a sport with a time ranking or handicap, right? There's a time. I call you quantitative sport. There is a number to your sport. This process is way easier. Okay. If I was the parent of a runner, I wouldn't have been banging my head against the wall trying to figure out what soccer program would be best fit for him. Okay. Because you have a time. So you take your time and look onto the websites and find out what their times are. Okay. What are the times required? What were the times of these athletes coming into their program, their freshman year? Okay. So you can get a very good idea of where you sit if you play a quantitative sport. Okay. I asked our men's tennis coach before he retired at Cal, like, how do you even recruit in tennis? Like, they have all these ranking systems and tournament play where you move up and down the ladders and the whole thing. And I'm like, how do you do it? And he's like, well, it's pretty easy. I mean, we want to meet the kids, but in terms of who we're looking at in California, we look at the top 3 ranked tennis players. So 1, 2, and 3 could come to Cal. 4, no. Okay. I mean, I'm obviously generalizing, but that's what he said. And then in the United States, we look at the top 10 tennis players. Okay. The 11th, not coming, right? In the world, we'll look at the top 2,000 tennis players. Okay. So his roster in 2022 had 6 internationals out of 10 players. And there's the game right there. Okay. So in one sense, it's easier to have a number, and another, it's kind of harder because, okay, oh, that dream school might have just gone and it's done and you need to move on, unless you just want to apply to it anyways and get in and go there and try to walk on. Okay. So look at rosters, not just for D2. I want you to look at rosters and times and handicaps and all of that for all the schools you're interested in. Okay. And finally, D3. D1 and D2 are going to be over here because they're more similar to each other because they are scholarshiped athletic programs. Okay. They're different from each other, but they're over here. Okay. D3 is over here. It is philosophically totally different than D1 and D2. Okay. It's the largest division, so it's got the most athletes. It does not offer athletic scholarships, right? So like the Ivy Leagues, who are D1, D3 does not offer athletic scholarships, okay? Most D3 schools are smaller, smaller class sizes. They have regional play. They're not flying across country for games. They're just on a bus in the local area playing. I mean, some conferences are a little more spread out than other ones. Each campus determines their eligibility, so they don't base it on the NC2A, because some D3 campuses are very selective and others are very easy to get into with a high admit rate, okay? Obviously, no tests are required for D3 for NC2A, even though some D3 schools, MIT, requires test scores, okay? So talk to your counselor. I'm going to keep saying that again and again and again. D3 is the balance. They decided they didn't want students missing labs or missing class for the sport. So most D3, they play their sport in the afternoon, like you guys are doing now. You go to school all day, you play your sport in the afternoon. And there's not a lot of overlap. Maybe a game you might have to miss for travel or something like that, but it's rare for you to miss things. They want you to be able to do both. D3s allow you to play 2 sports if you're good enough. D1s, there's no way. You'd have to be so good and negotiate that with a D1. D3s are like, great, you want to do soccer and then run track in the spring? Awesome. That's perfect, okay? So there are some exceptions to the D3, right? And remember, UC Santa Cruz is our only UC that's a D3, so keep that in mind. NYU is another surprising one. It's a monster school that's D3. But the D3 are mostly the liberal arts and science colleges that we all know and love. But here you are a student and an athlete, okay? You are not an athlete that misses school every once in a while. Keep in mind that there's a couple exceptions. In D3, if you petition, you can play up to D1 in one sport in each gender, okay? So for example, Colorado College is a D3 athletic program, but they play D1 in women's soccer and they play D1 in men's hockey. Okay. And it's mostly hockey and lacrosse where the changes happen. You can see Johns Hopkins plays D1 in men's and women's lacrosse. So just look out for those little ones because they can be confusing. Okay. D3, wide range of academic selectivity, right? The NESCAC, it's like the plum conference if you are a crazy student, right? You've got Amherst and Tufts and Bowdoin Bates Middlebury. You've got Hamilton, you've got Wesleyan, you got Trinity, you've got Amherst. You've got a lot of strong academic colleges. And if the coach wants you, that's going to help your admissions into those colleges. You have to be high on the coach's list so you get coach support, but it can definitely help you. Well, fortunately, for those of you that don't want to go leave the state, we have something called the SCIAC in Southern California. It's not quite as big as an SCAC, but it's getting bigger and bigger each year with selective colleges. We've got all the Claremont schools, Pomona, Pitzer, Claremont, Mudd, Scripps, Caltech, okay, Oxy. We've got a bunch of highly selective D3 schools on our coast too, okay? So give D3 a look, give it a very good look. It does things a little different in terms of timelines and likely letters and summer pre-reads, and it's not always a sure thing, but the process varies by school and team, okay? But give D3s a look because there's a lot of great opportunity at them. At this point, you're probably like, how do I know which school is D1, D2, D3? So what I'd like you to do now, if you have a phone handy or if you can put me in the corner on your laptop, Google NC2A membership map, or it might say membership directory. And once you Google that, click on it, and then a map will pop up. You won't get 2 maps. I kind of I screenshotted 2 maps to show you guys this. And if you pull it up, you will see the map. Go to the left-hand corner, and you can filter by your sport. So go through all the lists and find your sport and just pull your sport up so you can see your sport while I'm talking, okay? If you don't have access to it right here, check out what I'm looking at. I pulled up men's soccer, which is on top, and women's soccer on the bottom, and you can see the blue is Division I, the orange is D2, the green is D3. If you take a look at this map, okay, there's clearly 2 big things that are showing. One is there's way more women program than men's program in the NC2A, okay? So that it's a little bit harder for the guys. Second, that's a little bit harder if you want to be on the western side of our country because there's way more programs on the East Coast, Okay, so that makes the recruiting piece a little bit harder, not just for Division I, but D2 and D3 also. One thing you're going to want to note is anyone's interested in going to school in Florida, there are no D3s in Florida. It's just Florida has weird rules every once in a while. So, and that's one of them. So they only have D2 and D1 opportunities. And I just had to throw this out. I probably should have thrown in sailing or something like that, but I always like women's hockey because there's not that many programs, but 25% of high school girls hockey players will go on to play hockey in college. And partially it's because there's just not that many hockey players and there's not that many schools. But as you can see, there's 112 colleges, 36 D1s, 5 D2s, 71 D3s. Okay. Geography matters for them, obviously, where it's snow and cold and easier for Canadians to come down and play on the international. So use this membership map to your liking. It is a very good resource, and don't deep dive too far. There's like women's rifle. I didn't even know that was a team in the NC2A. I get caught in the rabbit hole on this membership map. That's the kind of nerd I am. Okay, so that's the NC2A, D1, D2, D3. They're very different, but they're all housed under the NC2A, okay? There's something called the NAIA, which is a parallel association. We call it the Rebel Association. It parallels the NC2A, does not cross. Maybe they'll play pre-conference, games against each other every once in a while, but they're two totally separate associations. NAIA is about similar in talent and recruiting and eligibility to D2. It's kind of like a D2 thing. There are some athletic scholarships, but not as many as D1. And on this type of schools, there's a lot of private, faith-based, and smaller schools in the NAIA. That said, UC Merced is the only NAIA UC. Okay, like Santa Cruz is the only D3 UC. So there are some very niche schools like SoCA and Evergreen and Maritime and Embry-Riddle and SCAD, where they're focusing on art or aero, or flying planes or whatever it is, right? Or driving boats, we could say. But there's some niche schools, but don't set out the NAIA because it's out there and they are looking harder for athletes than a lot of the NC2A programs. Another place you can play, and if you don't want to sacrifice your academic first choice, like let's just say you want to go to Stanford, and we all know it's very hard to get in there and they don't let that many people in, but you get in, and the Stanford soccer program is like, it's filled with girls on the national team, right? So they're like, yeah, no, you're not going to be able to play for us. Well, I got in. I'm going to go, and I'm going to be the best person on the club soccer team. Okay. So club soccer is exploding. Club sports are exploding on the scene right now, and it's a great place to play. Out of my last U19 2 years that I coached boys soccer, I had 15 guys go off and play for their college club team. Okay. We had them at Michigan, at Denver, at Wesleyan, at Northwestern. We had Cal Poly, UCSB, UCSD. At UCLA, oh my God, I had 3 guys try out for their soccer team. 180 boys tried out for that team the freshman year, and for 8 spots. And my guys got them. I was so proud. But that's how competitive some of the club teams are. So if you're interested in this, research the club programs on your list because it's a great place to play. It's more social. It's less of a sacrifice of your college experience. It's a club. You're meeting people, you're playing your sport, you're continuing on, okay? So it's something to think about because it's really growing in colleges right now. And then finally, okay, if you are not ready, either academically, you didn't have a good year, okay? Financially, maybe you're not ready to go off to put money into a 4-year college. And athletically, maybe you're not 350 pounds like Evan Neal and 6'7" yet, but maybe after a couple years, you are going to be that physical specimen and you're just not grown into your body yet. Look at a community college, okay? And if you do look at a community college, just quickly, I will say, research the college because all community college offer different sports and are good at different sports. So look at the rankings, like here's the baseball rankings, right? And, you probably haven't even heard of half of these schools, but there's some great baseball programs in California, and you can move on to a 4-year. So research the school, research the coach if you're going this route, and make sure that coach has a history of getting his or her players off to 4-year programs after they've left the community college. Okay. Boom. We made it to halftime. I get my drink. Consider some questions on that first half, because now we're going into the second half of the presentation, which is, how do I get recruited? How do I get, like, okay, I've talked to my coach. My coach says I should look at some top D3 programs and some bottom D1 programs. So I've compiled this big list because JT says, make a big list because it's much harder now to get recruited. So I've made this big list, and what do I do? Okay. Well, the process is different for different athletes depending on how good you are in your sport, right? I call blue chip athletes, which are, if you've ever been to Vegas, the blue chips are always worth a little bit more, like $10 chips, and the white chips are $1 chips. So you want more blue chips in front of you, for those of you that have been there and are old enough to be there. Blue chip athletes, they're the 2%. They're the unicorns. You go out to a field or a pool deck or a diving complex, and you're like, oh my God, that person's going to the Olympics. Like, that's amazing. They're in the driver's seats. They are highly valued recruits. You want to play on a team that has the blue chip if you're not a blue chip, because more college coaches will see you on that team, right? So they will get attention. They're going to get recruited early. They're going to commit to schools verbally early, and they're probably going to get more NIL money, and they're going to get more scholarship money, and they're just trying to manage the process. Some will go pro straight out of high school. These people do not need my help, okay? The coaches are coming to them just because they're unicorns. And if you don't know who this is, it's Megan Rapinoe, and she is amazing, just retired from the sport, and I tried to get her to come to Cal, and I didn't get her. So she was one of those recruits I lost. She and her twin sister both ended up at Portland and won a national title, while Cal did not. So it's one of my regrets in life, but she's gone on to having a fabulous career. She's an activist. She's gotten equal pay for women's soccer players. She's done it all. Okay. So she's a good unicorn. But what do you do if you are a white chip? If you are me, you're a white chip. There's 98% of us are white chips. Okay. We need to market ourselves. Okay. This is a business, and it's going to sound terrible because I know you're all athletes, but it's a business that's competitive. Okay. So you need to be your own agent, and you need to figure out how to set yourself up as best you can to get exposure to college coaches, to get noticed, to get invited, and to basically get a college offer. Okay. First up, keep your grades up. And I know Marin Academy kids, you guys are keeping your grades up, but the higher your grades are, the more options you will have and the more places you can go. Remember, we want to cast a wide net. Okay. We talked about testing. I don't need to keep hammering that into your heads. What I need you to do is you got to talk to your coaches. Talk to your club coaches, your high school coaches, your trainers, your showcase ID camp coaches, your combine coaches. Talk to anybody who knows your game and ask about your best fit. Am I D2? Am I D1? Should I look at NAIA? Should I just play club because I really want to go to this school and I might not be good enough? Ask them, ask all of them, because they all might have different answers. And then you can slowly start to narrow your list instead of expand it every time. You're going to create a resume or profile, which I'm going to show you in a little bit. You're going to create an email cover letter, which I'm going to show you. You're going to register for the NC2A or the NAIA Eligibility Center by junior year. They're both watchdog organizations that make sure you've taken enough courses to be eligible to play sports in college, okay? And that starts in high school, and I know your high school counselors are monitoring that for you, so you're in good shape, but you need to register for the NC2A and NAIA centers. Your high school counselors will send transcripts to them so that they can monitor it together. Get to know the websites about the recruiting rules specific to your sport because they differ greatly. We already talked about the NC2A membership map, but keep looking at that, and then create a big list and make contact. You're going to email to start, okay? It's pretty hard to pick up the phone to start because there's a lot of rules about if coaches can call you back. But the bottom line is to be your own agent. Okay. And I'm talking to the athletes now. Be your own agent as an athlete. In terms of the different roles, the role, college coaches don't want to hear from parents. They just don't. That's not cool. Okay. We don't want to hear from parents, and we don't want to hear from counselors unless we ask, right? We're going to ask, right? Counselors, like, we may need help with a transcript, or we may need a character check on a student athlete, right? So cold calling from counselors to coaches is kind of weird. Counselors will call admissions office. Athletes need to drive the process. High school and club coaches need to advocate for the athletes. That's who the college coach wants to hear from. Out of all that group, they want to hear from the athlete, and next they want to hear from their coach, okay? Parents can help monitor the process, and counselors can help guide student athletes to the best fit school while managing all the eligibility centers, okay? And so everyone kind of has their lane, but the athletes need to drive this process. Parent monitoring is huge. I can just tell you that personally, we took a lot of monitoring in our house. Okay, something you can do tonight or now as you're listening is social media. As we all know, it's almost everything right now. I mean, you can't go a day without hearing something about TikTok or Twitter X right now. Social media matters. 85% or 90% of college coaches are doing a deep dive into your life, into your social media, if they are interested in you. Okay. They've seen you. They like the way you play your sport. They think you're a great fit for the college. They want to make sure that you're not going to get them fired and that you are going to thrive at their college, academically and socially. Okay. So what are you posting? That's what they're going to look at. If your account's private and you don't let them in, they're like, what are you hiding? That's what they're thinking to themselves. Okay. So if you're going to keep your account private, make sure you're monitoring it so you're letting those college coaches in to see who you are. Otherwise, don't have an account. Okay. I would say use the account for good. Keep it classy, right? Make it work for you, not against you. Humbly post your accomplishments. Okay. Tag coaches, like and follow coaches. Start building an online presence. If I'm a coach and when I meet with clients, the first thing I do is Google the athlete. What's on there about them? Okay. Do they have a video posted? Do they have some kind of account? Can I learn something about them that I don't know through their social media, bad or good? Okay. So make sure that if you're going to use social media in the process, that it is clean. And I just talked to a college coach like last week who came up and said, hey, I found this great player, JT. I'm like, awesome, awesome. You know what? He's like, yeah, he's a goal scorer. It's just what we need, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, that's great. And he's like, yeah. And then I looked at his social media and I'm like, what? He goes, he's really selfish. And I'm like, what do you mean? He only has pictures of himself and only him scoring goals. He doesn't have anything of his team or his family or doing anything outside of soccer. Like, is that the kind of kid we want? You know? And I'm like, oh my God, you know, they're really looking. They're really looking at social media. So it has become a thing. If you are baseball, I know you're not football, but if you are football, Twitter X is the way they're using. They're doing a lot of recruiting out of. I'd say if you have Instagram, use it to research what these college coaches and college programs are putting out, when their ID camps are, when they go to community service as a team, how much fun they have at practice. What are these people posting? And is that the type of culture I want to be involved in down the road? So I'm sure there will be questions on this, so I'm ready for them at the end. Okay. Athletic resume or profile. Obviously, I'm a college counselor by background and an educator. I love having everything on one piece of paper just for organizational purposes and to remember the honors and accolades that you have that you're going to have to put on your college application. So if you are in a quantitative sport, or if you score goals and get assists, or if you have track numbers, get all this down on a piece of paper. Get your coach's references on the information. If you're really tall or you're really fast, put your times down, okay? Measurables matter to these coaches. You can use this profile to post, you can send it to coaches, it can help you fill out recruiting questionnaires, and it can be for your college activities list, okay? Be sure that if you put references down there, as you can see, I'm a reference for this player who ended up playing at UW. ask your reference if it's okay to list them so, you know, they don't get a strange call and not know what's happening. Okay. Another thing you can do now is if you haven't started writing coaches yet, or even if you have, this is a sample email cover letter. Just know I give it to everybody. So you don't want to copy it word for word in any way, shape, or form. It's entirely too much information just so I could tell you what you could put in a cover letter. Okay. So subject line is important. Name, grad year, team, and topic. They do not care about your birth year. Okay. Birth year doesn't make sense to college coaches because they keep changing. Your grad year does. If you're a junior, you're going to be a 2025, right? If you're a senior, you're a 2024. They know that means they know what they can, if they can talk to you, if they can make contact with you, if they can have FaceTime with you. All the NC2A rules come into play based on what year you graduate high school, which is the same year you will enter college. Okay. Second thing, dear coaches, right? Dear Coach Carrie, Sammy, and JT. Okay. Write all the coaches on staff you do for any email you can find on their website, because you don't know who's actually managing the recruiting in the office. Sometimes it's not the head coach. Okay. So especially if you're a goalkeeper or position specific in some sport and they have a position recruiter, write them all. Okay. Like swimming and diving, you're a diver, write the diving coach. Okay. You can start with either of the first two paragraphs. It doesn't matter to me. I just put them in this order because that's how my brain thinks. But some people like to start with the second paragraph with something kind of catchy and fun that attaches you as the athlete to the school, the program, or the coach, right? Like if there's a player in your club or in your high school that has gone off and played at this school, you can say that first. Like, Johnny's, you know, playing at Bates and he loves it. And I would love to follow in his footsteps and play for you after everything he said, right? Or my dad went to your school and grandma still lives there and we visit all the times. And I really know I want to be in Maine, right? So something school specific so they know you're not spamming them, which you kind of are. You're spamming a bunch of schools. But if it's school specific, at least you took the time to research something about the school that you like, or maybe they have a major that's very unique and that's something you're interested in. The first paragraph is just the intro, you know, your name, your grad year, what year in school you are, what high school, your GPA, if it's awesome, you know, weighted, unweighted works, and then the club team you play for. Okay. The third paragraph, if you are a freshman or sophomore in many sports right now, coaches cannot write you back in Division I or Division II if you make contact with them. In soccer, they can't write you back until June 15th. And in lacrosse, it's September 1st. Okay. Basketball, I'm not even going to go into it. The basketball recruiting rules, they have calendars of every month of when you can make contact and when you can't. So definitely check that out online if you are in basketball. So very simple. At the end, you know, whatever, however you're going to finish it with your name, I'd strongly recommend creating, if you haven't started already, an email just for this process, right? Your name and your grad year in it so the coaches know who you are. And then not everything will be going into your email box of either your Marin Academy email or, you know, your own private Gmail. Not that you guys email a lot. I know that doesn't happen with your age group, but that's the way the process is still working. So add an email signature on to the end too. And you can ask your parents, you go into settings and just put in your name, your grad year, your high school, your club, your GPA, your maybe references, your cell phone, social media handles if you're going to use it, and a link to your video if you have one. And every time you send an email out, all that information will go out with it. Okay. It makes it so that coaches can remember who you are easier. They're like, who is that kid? They can click on your video and your face should pop up, right? They're like, oh yeah, I remember that kid. That kid was really good. Obviously change the coaches' names, the names of the school, and even the font maybe of each email. So it's consistent every time and it doesn't look like spam when somebody receives it. Okay. So you have your list of schools, you've talked to your coaches, you've made a huge list, and you're going to send out your email cover letter and hopefully your videos in it or your times or all of that stuff. And then you're going to wait for responses. Now, I said, check the NC2A website or the NAIA website so you know if you're getting ghosted by a coach, right? they're just not responding to you, or if they're not allowed to respond to you yet because of the year in school you are and the sport and gender that you are, right? All the rules are debated on that, okay? They vary significantly by division, sport, gender, and school. Okay, so you've done all this. You've sent out these letters. Now what, right? You've sent these emails all over the country to these schools that you're very interested in. Don't be one and done. Okay. Imagine on the other side, I'm in the coaching office, and before I go to a tournament and I'm getting my list and trying to figure out what fields I'm going to go watch at this 3-day event, I'm going to be watching maybe 20 soccer games in 3 days. Who am I going to go see? Right. Well, I'm going to go see the ones who are really interested in me. So if you wrote me some email 6 months ago, I have forgotten you. You're not even on my radar. Okay. So you need to keep writing. One contact or evaluation is not enough. Obviously, you need to track the coach's responses. So a spreadsheet is good, which I'll show you in a little bit. You can fill out athlete questionnaires and profiles on college websites. Okay, that's very important. I'll show you that in a minute. Build your online presence, right? So when coaches Google you, it's like, oh, this is a stellar athlete with a great swim time, right? Humbly post your accomplishments on social media, humbly, and obviously put some friends and teammates in there too. Follow and like coaches, make a highlight video, which we'll talk about. Stay in contact with coaches. Send tournament updates early. If you're going to a regatta, send the information out early, because there's a lot of people at a regatta and they need to be there to watch you row. Okay. Attend ID camps, summer camps, prospect camps, any camps you can that are good fit camps, right? Best bang for your buck. They are camps that have a lot of college coaches at them that you're interested in their programs. Okay. Get exposure. The goal of all of this isn't to be in a email relationship with the coaches. You want to get to a call or a text or a visit or a Zoom interaction, anything next level from email. Nobody likes to be in an email relationship, right? Very boring. Keep your high school counselor or counselors in the loop. They can get calls from coaches, and it'd be good for them to know what you're doing and where you are with some schools, or if you need help. Okay. Parents on your end, learn from the veteran parents on the sidelines or the pool decks or the track stadiums that are wearing the sweatshirt. Okay. They've got a Puget Sound sweatshirt on. That's where your kid's trying to go. Go talk to them about the process. Okay. They will happily tell you all the pitfalls that they went through to get there. Here is the sample tracking template. And this was a soccer player that I worked with. He knew he wanted D3. That's what his coach said. He wanted a small liberal arts college. He did not want to be near home in California. He knew certain things. So what he did is he put the name of the college down, the division, most were D3. He had a couple D1s in there. The size of the population, because he wanted a small community. So that was important to him. And then the coaches. And as you'll notice, I say, right, all the coaches. Well, most D3 programs will only have one head coach and an assistant coach that may not have an email. So list as many emails there as you can. Then you can just cut and paste them into your email when you send them your initial contact letter and your updates. So he wrote down the date he sent the emails and the emails received, which I really liked. And then he used red to indicate that the email was personal, like not just like, thanks for reaching out, please come to our ID camp. Okay, that's spam that you're getting from the office. But this was like, oh, you had a great goal in that Jeff Cup, and now I want you, I'd love you to come to camp. We're going to be here in recruiting, and we are really looking for an attacking centerman. Okay, so that's what the red ones are about. So, based on this, it looks like he was going to Williams, right? He was like, Williams was really all over him. Oberlin liked him. He's at Haverford playing soccer now, right? So you never know how it's going to play out. But keep in mind that when you fill out a questionnaire, also put the date of that. If you visit campus or if you have an exposure column of when these people have seen you, oh, they saw me row in this regatta, or they saw me at this AAU tournament, and then they saw me at my high school basketball tournament. So definitely record everything. At the end, I always think it's cool just to have a notes column, because if you visit a school or have a good conversation with a coach, that you want to start writing things down. Once you get above 5 schools and being in contact with them, it'll start to get a little mushy in your brain. So have this spreadsheet, and then everyone can look at it in your family and help you with the process. Okay, I keep saying questionnaires. So the questionnaires are another way to show interest, right? And you don't have to write another email. You just go onto the athletic website and it will say recruiting or recruit profile or recruit questionnaire. And tragically, these are 120 questions and it takes forever to fill them out. And I'm just going to admit here and now that we did not let our son do these because this was the worst busy work and the easiest part for us to help. We wanted him to be writing the emails. We wanted him to be making contact with the coaches and making his highlight videos. So we did this process with him or for him. So if you have an aunt, an uncle, or a sibling that you can be really nice to that can help you with this, or parents, you can use RecruitSpot. Like if you have 40 schools on your list, filling out these questionnaires could take hours and hours and hours. So, or weeks maybe. So I would suggest starting with recruitspot.com. It's a free website. You can fill out one recruiting profile on RecruitSpot and it autofills about 50% of the recruiting profiles that you may have to fill out. So start with RecruitSpot and then chip away at these. And why you want to do it is, one, it shows interest to a coach because they get a little ding when you fill it out. 2, it starts an e-file in the office. And 3, sometimes they use it when they go out to an event to watch you play. Okay. So it's kind of a necessary evil. It was definitely, I think, the worst part of this process, except for the overall process, which was just hard in general. Okay. Video. Because of COVID, because of Zoom, because of everything that happened, the video was an important piece of the process, but now it's just getting more and more important every year, especially if you're very interested in attending a school that is nowhere near where we live, right? You want to go to school in the South or the East Coast or the Midwest. You want to go to D3 where they don't have a lot of recruiting money, right? You having a video is like a teaser to get the coach interested. So they will watch you when you get in front of them. Okay. In terms of highlight videos, I would say 3 to 5 minutes. I know I put 4, but 3 minutes is good enough. If you have 3 minutes of clips, that's about 20 to 30 clips. You're going to have a circle or an arrow and you're going to pause the video so we can see you swinging that, stopped with the lacrosse stick, and we can eye you and know who you are and then track you during your clip. Okay. You're going to order your clips best to worst, because what if a coach only watches 30 seconds? What do you want them to see, right? In our sport, you don't want them to see you juggling, because who cares? We should all be able to juggle in college soccer. You want to show all parts of your game. So, if you're a goal scorer, or if you're a 3-point shooter, show a bunch of those, but then also show you defending, show the other side of the game. Appropriate crowd noise is the best. And sometimes there isn't appropriate crowd noise because obviously parents are filming and screaming in there and you get a lot of that. So if it's not appropriate, just mute it and put some cool music over it. Use a front slide, okay, with your name, grad year, club, positions, high school, GPA, if it's good, right? Email, photo, all of that stuff. The last slide, especially if you're young, you could put your coaches' references on there with their email addresses. So if you can't be contacted, they could contact your coaches. Update your video. You're getting bigger, stronger, faster every year, okay? You don't want to look like your 8th grade self in these videos that's smaller, right? So update it often, keep it current. And then if you don't have a system, like there's Huddle and there's all these different systems, if there isn't one for your sport or one for, whatever sport you're doing, put it on YouTube, store all your clips in there and make highlight videos out of YouTube. So it's just one click away. Okay. One click, the coach has to click. If the coach has to click and do a password and create a username and do all that, they're not going to do it. Okay. They're going to just delete your video. So make it easy for them. I thought it was funny. I interviewed all these soccer coaches at an event I was at, and they said what they, all their kind of pet peeves were about videos. And one guy was just like, pick a good song. And we were like, what? And he was like, I like hard rock. And I'm like, okay, dude, like that's going to be hard. So pick a song that's not inappropriate. That's what I'm going to say for you guys. Ooh, we are nearing the end, So get those questions ready. A couple more slides. Blue chip or white chip? Well, because we're Bay Area people and these are both local in their own ways. Obviously, Steph Curry, you're probably thinking is got to be a blue chip. Well, he wasn't a blue chip. He is a blue chip now, but in his college process, he was a white chip, which is just crazy. I obviously am a huge fangirl, even though he's getting older. I know that, okay, but he's had an incredible career. His dad played basketball at Virginia Tech. His mom played volleyball at Virginia Tech. Like he comes from good genes, right? High school, he was all state. He was MVP. He won 3 conference titles. He won 3 state playoffs. He shot 48% of his 3-pointers in his senior year, right? An unreal number. And his college offers, he got no offers from the Power 5 conferences. None of the big name schools made him a full offer. And in basketball, like football, you get all or nothing in Division I, right? You either get the full ride scholarship or you get 0. He got offered a walk-on spot at Virginia Tech, Steph Curry, right? Total white chip, which is crazy. So what did he do, which was brilliant? He pivoted and he's like, okay, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to go to Davidson College. So he went to the smallest Division I school in the country with only 1,700 students, and he played. And by his junior year, he did so well. He was drafted 7th pick to the Warriors, and we have everything since then. Okay. So he was a white chip that became a blue chip in his college career. The best thing about Steph also is in 2022, he finally graduated Davidson College, right? He did, and he wrote his thesis on gender equity in sports because of his wife and his 2 daughters. So obviously I'm a fangirl for a lot of reasons, but I'm even a bigger fangirl of Alex Morgan, who is on his right. If you don't know her, you've been living under a rock. And I will tell you about her because she too was a white chip. And I had the honor to recruit her to Cal and also to coach her at Cal. She didn't start playing club soccer, competitive soccer, until she was 14. She played softball, track, and rec soccer. She was good at all. She didn't want to give any one of them up, and good enough to have a late start. I saw her at an ODP camp when ODP was a really big recruiting piece of the process back in the early 2000s. She was in Moscow, Idaho, playing for Cal South. And I was actually out at the game to see number 11 play, the partner she was playing up top with in the 4-4-2. And by the end of the game, I couldn't stop watching her. She was a full unicorn. She had a horn on her head. She was so much better than everybody else, so much more athletic and competitive and fiery that I was calling in the other coaches. It was 8 a.m. There wasn't a single college coach coaching out there. And I was like, I have found this player. We have to get her. Within 3 months, we had her committed, visited on a full scholarship. And we don't give out a lot of full scholarships because, as you heard in the beginning, we don't have a lot of that kind of money in women's soccer. The best thing about Alex Morgan, like Steph Curry graduating a couple of years ago, is she came into my office freshman year. We hadn't even started school. We were in training camp. She comes in and she's like, Jade, we have to go see the academic advisor. And I'm like, whoa, wait, what happened? Did something bad happen with your classes? Because another perk of being an athlete is you get to sign up for all your classes at these D1 programs early, so you can maybe not have them on Fridays so you don't miss them because you're traveling. I was like, oh, Al, is everything okay? And she's like, no, my classes are great, and I haven't even gone to one yet. So everything seems fine. My schedule looks good, but I need to graduate early. And I was like, what? I go, college is the best 4 years of your life. You're going to have a blast. You're going to make friends for life. It's going to be awesome. Like, why get out early? And she's like, well, by my senior year, we're going to have a World Cup that summer after, and I'm going to be on the national team at that point. Remember, she's a freshman right now who just started playing soccer at 14. I'm going to play on that national team, and I'm going to go to that World Cup and play with that team. And I was like kind of laughing, like, oh, isn't that cute? Like, she's got these great goals. It's so awesome. I'm like, okay, go to the academic advisor. We squish her courses together. She takes summer school. She does all that. And boom, she graduates in 3.5 years in a strong major. And she makes that national team. And she goes to Germany and they come in second in the championship World Cup game. Okay. So Alex Morgan, another white chip done good. Now, I'm not saying that all of you out there, or me for that matter, all us white chips are going to be like Steph and Al, but if you put enough work into this process, you can make something happen for yourself. Okay. So here's the money shot right now. For those of you who are dying to get started tonight and can't wait for the slides or the video to come tomorrow, take a picture of this or a screenshot or something. This is everything I said in the general order that I said it. And if you want to get started tonight, or you've already started and want to make sure you're on the right track, take a look at this. Notice at the bottom, I say that timelines vary depending on every sport in terms of when coaches make offers, when they do pre-reads, when athletes commit. And it really varies based on the gender, the sport, the conference, the college, and the coach. Like, everybody does it differently. So it's hard to generalize about timelines. What I can say is the D1 sports on the women's side in the Power 5 conferences go really early. Okay. So those commitments are earlier than the men's sports, and then D3, D2 sports, which go later. Okay, so I can give you that little piece. Have I stalled out long enough to let you all take a photo of that? If not, tell me to go back and I will. Here's a bunch of resources. I mean, there's so much online. You don't have to use my initial contact letter. You could just get another one online and use that as your template and buff it up and make it your own, right? But if you're going to register for the NC2A Eligibility Center or the NAIA, it's on here. If you're interested in college club sports, look at the NIRSA website and see who has what. There's 2 different tiers, at least in soccer. Recruit spots on there to help you fill out those terrible questionnaires. And the NC2A membership map. Have fun with it. Okay, and then finally, we're at the end. So I'm going to give you one kind of little 2 pieces of advice that I've discovered over the last few years, and then we'll take questions. The 2 things I found out in this process that are the most important is, one, in terms of this like process, like the whole administrative side of this, of, being your own agent and marketing yourself, and the business side of it, is sometimes, especially in Division III, if that's what your focus is, it's not the best player that gets that D3 offer all the time. Sometimes it's a player who's really, really good, but they're also really good at this process, at getting themselves seen, at getting the spreadsheet out. So I've seen that happen multiple times, where it might not be my best player, but he's going off to this great school because he did the work for it. Okay. The second piece of this is, I don't want you to get lost in the administrative side of this, the business side of this, because you really need to focus on your development too. You need to get better. You are only in high school right now. You are going to get bigger, stronger, faster, and you are going to get better if you put your mind to it. What I found on that end as a coach is, how you answer this question determines potentially how good you can be. What do you do to develop your game when you're not with your team and you're not with your coaches? What are you doing for sleep, for hydration, for nutrition? What are you doing for touches on the ball? What are you for doing speed in your stroke? What are you doing when you're by yourself? And the better answer you have to that question, the further you will go as an athlete. Okay. That is it. Did I get under? Oh, that one went kind of long. Sorry about that. But I am happy to take questions.
Thanks so much, JT. I think what we'll do is, if you have a question, we're only going to have enough time for 2 or 3 probably. But if you have a question, unmute yourself and we'll try to be polite and not talk over one another.
Hi, JT. Can you hear me?
Yeah, hi.
Hi. Thank you so much for this.
You're welcome. I know it was a lot, so sorry. That's why you guys are probably quiet right now. It's like, ah. Does anyone have
Sorry
a
about
question?
that.
Oh, no, that's okay. Go ahead.
I did have a quick question. You had mentioned ID camps and things, and getting the biggest bang for your buck by going to the ones that have big groups. Where can you find the best ID camp?
That's a good question. Okay, so obviously it's sport dependent, right? They're different in different sports. The best way to find ID camps is, when you write that initial email and you fill out that questionnaire, if you give them your email, you're going to get spam from them about their ID camps. So the more you put your name out there on profiles or like in soccer on Scouting Zone in different places, you're going to get emails back saying this is when these ID camps are, because they are money makers for coaches. So they are marketing them to a ton of people. You can also go on the website of the school that you're very interested in and see what ID camps they have posted. And they're also posting them on Instagram and Twitter to market. So that's another way to use social media to kind of research where you can find these camps.
Another question? Don't be shy. Okay, last call for questions. That was such an enormous amount of information, JT, that maybe there's no room for any more.
No, it's a lot. I am telling you, I know firsthand it's a lot.
What a wealth of useful info, though. We're so grateful. I think since participant response now has gone a little bit quiet, we'll say goodnight to you all. And if you have questions for JT, I think, yeah, there's her email address up at the top there. And JT, is it okay if they send you questions?
Of course.
Okay, thank you so much.